Welcome back. So many times as women, we talk about our health of our family and our friends, but we overlook ourselves so much. And I wanted to open up the dialogue on that of why do women overlook themselves so much, especially when it comes to their own health?
Well, I mean, I think it started after the Industrial Revolution when men were told they needed to go out into the workforce and their whole role in society was defined economically. It was all about making money, and so they were away from the family, and the women's responsibility was is they took care of that family. So it was always about putting the energy towards the children and the husband and the home, and what happened is they forget about themselves when that kind of thing happens.
And that's still where we are today, except for one caveat. Now the women are in the workforce, so we're still taking care of everybody and we're working. So it's a double whammy.
We have even less time for ourselves.
Right.
But isn't it important for us, you know, we're making our schedules of, you know, grocery lists and all of that. Shouldn't we schedule time for ourselves in? Are women doing that?
It's hard to do. I mean, honestly, just to go to the gym, you have to like carve out that extra hour or that extra 2 hours of time. It's difficult. You really have to schedule it in, and you have to give it the importance that you have other things in your life. And that's hard to do sometimes. Plus, I think there might be in the back of your head, there's just like, I don't really want to go to the gym, so I might play in.
But honestly, even things like, you know, I mean, just getting, I hate to say, but I haven't been to the dentist in a really long time. I really need to get to the dentist, you know, and I just, it's hard to make that time, and especially like figuring out how are we going to do it, you know, what time of the day, who's going to take care of who during that time. So it's hard to just do even, you know, basic care things. And when you put in, like, you know, if you have major medical issues.
I think that's what happens. Because we're so busy, we go to the doctor on a proactive reason, and we're not preventive. And by going to the gym and working out, what we have to do, and I'm going to use myself, I have to say that I'm important, right? Because, you know, the old saying, if mama's not happy, ain't nobody happy in the house. That is true. And so I have to make time. And I'm encouraging our ladies, our viewers, to make time. Those things that are important, you do that, whether it's going to the gym. We may have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to the gym, but to make time, because once we fall, the whole family falls because of how intricate we are.
And to really take care of everyone else, we need to take care of ourselves.
And especially when it comes to our health, because if that falls, I mean, it doesn't matter what else is on our schedule, right? I mean, it just doesn't matter. If your health fails or you have any issues, all of that goes to the wayside. So
exactly. Catch the flu for 3 days and everything is gone, right? Let your significant partner, your husband have the flu, or you have the flu, you still cooking, cleaning, he have the flu. Everything is.
All right. Well, you know, thanks for that. And note to self, I got to get to that dentist. And you should be taking care of yourself, too. We'll be back with more Every Way Woman.
It amazes me when men get sick.
Today we're honored to have a true trailblazer and an everyway woman. Norma Yeager is here. You were the first woman to walk on the floor of the New York stock market. Tell us what that felt like.
Well, I was part of a training program, and they usually have the trainees walk on the floor of the exchange so that they learn how the exchange operates. Well, I was the first woman in the class, and they said, well, we can't allow the class to go. She can't go. So they asked me to stay home, and I said, no way. And they made it a deal that if I walked on the floor of the exchange, I had to go in before it opened, and after it closed, I could leave. So that was the compromise that we made. And the reason they gave is they didn't have ladies' rooms.
Oh, boy.
So we managed to work that out.
You managed to hold it, right?
Yes, yes.
Get around that. Well, let's start from the very beginning, because, you know, back in the day, we talk about the women's movement now, and we owe so much to people like you, women like you, who really set the motions to what we're able to do today. Because, you know, so much about the women's rights movement today is about talking about abortion and things like that. But, you know, for you, like you're talking about, just being able to walk into, you know, a building, an office, and be able to be taken seriously. You had also fought for equal pay, and, you know, that's something we're still fighting for today.
Absolutely.
But for you, you actually got it.
Well, when I finished my training, and my manager called me in, and he said, you know, we are in a predicament. We don't know what to pay a woman. We've never hired a woman before to be a stockbroker, so what do we do? I said, well, why is that a problem? I'm doing the same work the men are doing. I attend the class, I have to sell stocks and bonds and so on. And he said, well, they have families and they have car fare, they have lunches, and you know, they have the expenses to come to work. I said, well, I'm coming to work because I also have the same expenses and I have to help my family, and that's why I'm working. Otherwise, I would stay home with them. So I said to him, you know, I have the same expenses, and I even have to hire a wife.
Oh my gosh, and that's the truth.
And it took him back. And you see, the answer is not to fight. The answer is to give him a good reason why you're entitled to more. And I was entitled to the equal pay because I had the same expenses, and I had an additional expense. So he gave it to me, and I ended up earning exactly what the other trainees were earning. And it made a very big difference because it opened the door for many of the future stockbroker women stockbrokers, to be able to come in and have equal pay.
Well, speaking of, just as you explained, you had to hire a wife because you started out, you had gotten married, thought you were going to be at home raising the children, and then what happened with the dynamic with your husband?
Well, my husband was not doing well financially, and I did have to go and help supplement in the family. And at that time, you know, it was secretaries and nurses and so on, and I didn't have that education. I wasn't going to be able to help and get a job, nor were the jobs available for women at that time. There were very few jobs. Now we have airline pilots, and we have police women and firefighters and Army women and so on. So there are so many opportunities today for women. In my time, there wasn't any. Fortunately, this door opened for me to join the training program, and now I had to start on a commission basis, not only income, but commission, to be able to help support the family. So today, what we need to do is educate the women to do these jobs, and they're capable.
Well, Norma, you've talked so much about breaking down the walls, and that's actually the title of the book that you have.
Yes.
And I really encourage all of us women to look at this book. What made you want to write the book and write down all of your memories?
Actually, I was encouraged to do so by my husband because he felt that I should have some story about my life, since it was breaking down many walls for women, that the family should have something to remember me by. Well, when I started to do that, I was told that I need a publicist in order to have the book published. So I got a publisher. She read the book. She says, oh my God, this book has to come out. She says, this is a wonderful book for women.
Well,
and not only women, but men need to know where women have come from.
Absolutely, because like you said, you had to hire a wife, so
That's
you were
right.
doing it all. So we absolutely need to encourage all women to read this book and know where we come from and know the struggles that people like you have fought for us. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Norma. And that's Norma Yeager, Breaking Down the Walls. We'll be back with Every Way Woman. Type 2 diabetes is the fastest growing epidemic in the U.S., and we have Erin Snyder here who has a new prescription, basically trying to change things around a little bit, because I think we rely so much on, just drugs fixing everything for us. But what is your plan for us to kind of change this whole epidemic around?
Well, back when I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes and I was 220 pounds at 5'5", I knew, even though I had a genetic predisposition for this disease, it was my eating, the junk food lifestyle that I was living, that was really causing me to be a type 2 diabetic at such a young age. And so my message is, let's start with that. Let's acknowledge that the foods that we're eating, the way that we're living our life with the lack of exercise, is what is causing us to gain this weight in the first place. We've had the same genes for the last 10,000 years, but we've only had an epidemic in type 2 diabetes for the last 20. So let's start with that, and let's put diet and exercise first, medication second. And that's how I was able to lose over 80 pounds of fat, gain 20 pounds of muscle, get off all my medications for type 2 diabetes. And I've done it in a way that still lets me eat what I want on the weekends.
It's really hard, though, in a society where, fast food is pushed in our face every day. There are ads. I mean, how do you feel about that? Do you think that government should have a role in changing that, or do you think you just need to get the message to individuals to be in control of their own health?
It's the individual. You know, I grew up eating fast food literally 4 times each week. I remember one time my mom came home with McDonald's, didn't know that my dad had done the same thing. I ate them both. It wasn't a problem. It's like, this is easy.
Right.
But you know, here's the thing. When it comes to fast food, people have this idea of, oh, you know, I had a stressful day. I had, you know, 1,000 things that happened. I don't have a lot of time. I'm just going to have this one meal. And hey, what difference does it make, right? It's not a drug.
Think about it
It's not
later.
gonna
But
kill. I'll
every
think about
little
it later.
bit is
Every
a
little
problem.
bit counts. And if you're living a lifestyle that is causing you to gain weight little by little by little, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, you have that genetic predisposition, guess what? You're going to wind up type 2 diabetic like I did. I just got there a little faster than everybody else.
Well, like you're saying, you know, you're a 4th generation diabetic.
That's right.
And that's the thing, the way that it's traveling through families, because, you know, my own family struggles with it. But it's hard because we still can't let go of our rice. You know, we love eating our rice. We love our carbs. And even though we know, you know what, we need to add some more vegetables in and things like that, it's so hard for us as a group, as a whole family, to change that.
And you know what the biggest, and I was just discussing this with somebody else just before this, the best way that you can change your lifestyle is never go on a diet. But what you have to do is you have to create a lifestyle of foods that slim you down, but that you love to eat. What does that mean? It means you have to prepare food in a way that you love to eat it. Now, rice can be a part of any diet. And the way that I've done it, you know, as a type 2 diabetic, I have to follow a low-carb diet 5 days a week. Now, on the weekends, I have figured out that I can have my potatoes, I can have my brownies, I can have my rice, and I can eat those foods, and I indulge myself, and I don't miss it when I go back to a delicious set of meals on the weekdays.
But
I'll eat a steak every day.
But some people, you know, if they get that weekend to indulge, I mean, they're really indulging.
They're
that
really
they can't
gonna overdo
come back,
it.
you know, during the week.
But it is better, I hear, to eat a lot of food in one day and then not eat the next day than to
There is
overeat
that.
every single day by a certain. That's what I've heard.
There is
true?
that. That's absolutely true. When you think about it, you know, Thanksgiving happens once a year. You know, when we're talking about the holiday season.
I fast on
can't wait.
Thanksgiving.
You do?
I fast
I don't know
on
how you can
Thanksgiving
do
every
it.
year.
But think about this. We gain weight on the holiday season. That's 60 days. But there's only what? Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. That's 4 days. It's not those 4 days that caused anybody to gain
Right.
the 10 or 20 pounds. It's
Right.
all the days
It's
between
also
it.
cold, though, and so people want to eat to get that
Well,
fat on for winter.
And we
But
don't
there's a
lose the weight from
psychological-
those holidays. So that's the
Right.
main thing, that, you know, we're just not changing our diet enough to make
And
a
so,
change.
go ahead.
No, I was going to play devil's advocate, and I
Yeah.
was going to say that when I concentrate on food, I end up eating more.
Mm-hmm.
So what I do is I try to distract myself. I throw myself into hobbies or activities, and then I tend to eat less. But yet, people who advocate losing weight tend to say, no, you do this, you write down in a little book everything you eat and all your calories, and you read
Mm-hmm.
the book. So what is your response to somebody like that?
It's read the book. That's your response, right? Just go get
That's
your
one
book.
of them. Yeah, I mean, that is the response. I mean, yeah, read the book. But the bottom line is, what we've done on the website for this book is we've identified, let's talk about what your biggest problem is, you in particular.
one thing.
Find the biggest challenge to you
Right.
in what it is to losing weight. Let's work on that, and then let's work on the next thing. You don't have to do it all at once.
All right.
Right.
Well, this book probably has a lot of great information. Thank you, Erin, for being here.
It was
and-
great to be here. Thank you
and
very
let's
much.
make some changes. All right, we'll be back with more Every Way Woman. Welcome back to Every Way Woman, and we have our interesting men's series and a very special guest. We have Robert Moran here, and Robert, you are living with autism. Now, tell me a little bit about how that is as far as your career and you know, trying to move up. Does that get in the way at all?
It does, actually. It's actually living. I'm actually working in a job that is most jobs you have to have some sort of social interaction with someone. For me, that is exactly what Asperger's is, what autism is. It is the impairment of our ability to interact with other people. I mean, it can manifest itself in different ways. For instance, I have problems reading body language. I know many people who have it that cannot remember people's faces. They call it face blindness. They can identify you other ways, but for some reason they just can't recognize your face. Also, we tend to, there's also we lack the ability to kind of censor ourselves. We can go on and on and on about subjects. I mean, Asperger's is also known as little professor syndrome, because we can go on and on, talk about things that are completely boring and uninteresting to other people.
But you know a lot.
Yeah, we know a lot, but we don't always recognize that the other person we're talking to isn't completely interested in it.
You know, and Robert, it's so nice to meet you. I have a son who has autism, and we just recently told him, and so now he's Googling it and learning about it and what exactly it means, and so I'm very encouraged to see that you're doing so well, and it doesn't seem to, that you've identified your needs and strengths as well, and you can kind of guide yourself along that way and choose paths that will accommodate that.
Well, and one of the things that I've also been impressed with, you've written a lot about how autism is portrayed in the media, especially, with just recently with the shooting in Newtown and Adam Lanza. I think the press did a terrible job in covering autism and its involvement in the shooting at all. And what do you feel about how they covered it?
It's kind of a mixed bag. In some cases, they get it right. I mean, particularly like in the entertainment side, like in the show Parenthood, for example, they get it. The show's creators get Asperger's perfectly, because these showrunners' son has Asperger's, and he based the character off of his son. Mm-hmm. But then you have it, where you get the news, and on the news side, it's kind of like they don't get it right.
They just want to throw it out as a buzzword, right?
Yeah, they just want to throw it out as a buzzword and basically get a lot of attention. I mean, there was not just the Newtown shooting, but there was also, after the shooting in Aurora, Colorado, Joe Scarborough went on MSNBC and said that the shooter was on the autism scale, and it was like,
what does that have to do with anything?
Exactly.
Well, not only are these people's records confidential and they don't know for sure, and they have no business saying that to begin with, but there's also multiple diagnoses. You could have that as well as other things to go along with it. So it's not fair to label anyone like that.
Exactly. I think in those cases, people are trying to look for answers, and sometimes they want to look for the monster under the bed, and as it is, we're autistics are kind of the new people, the new group on the scene. We're the ones that would most likely be kind of, as in any society, the newest group is always the one that would get disenfranchised the most.
And what are some of the myths out there that keep getting portrayed?
Well, the classic example of the myth that I would think of is, you think of if you've ever watched the character The Big Bang Theory, the show The Big Bang Theory, the character Sheldon, that he represents every single myth that there is about Asperger's.
Maybe since it's a comedy, they feel like they can take some poetic license with it. What are some of the myths that they have?
Like his very spastic behavior. Like there's you video montages on YouTube of him knocking on Penny's door and going, Penny, 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 Penny. Yeah. The repetitive behavior things that he does. Like he's always talking about things that are completely uninteresting to everybody. He's socially awkward. He's the geek.
So they get it wrong. But Robert, I really want to thank you, because even for me with reporting on CCN, I felt like I went to you and some of the things you've written so that I could try to get it right. So I appreciate what you're doing out there and trying to dispel some of the myths out there. So thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome.
And you're doing a great job, I have to say.
Thank you.
And we'll be back with more Every Way Woman. Aldair is back, and he's ready to get our men back in shape. So Aldair, they can put on the outfit, but is that the first step they need to do to get back in shape? What else needs to happen?
They want to get out in public? Probably. Next step is obviously getting to the gym, and once all the paperwork is settled and they're actually getting into a routine. Let's start off with point zero, that all those measurements, getting your body fat percentage, your weight, your circumference measurements. Everybody's always scared of this guy right here.
What does that thing do?
It helps pinch when trained with it and have enough experience, you can actually gauge body fat percentage very well, and it's just as accurate, or at least I should say.
What do you do that with?
All right, there's a lot of sites you can do: bicep, tricep, chest, belly for most guys, women as well, thighs, calves. There's a lot of sites that you can do depending on the formula, but it gives you an accurate reading of how much body fat percentage you have. Now that number is a little bit better than just your BMI because that just takes into account your height and your weight. If you're a bodybuilder, you're huge. Doesn't necessarily mean that you're obese or you're fat. Body fat percentage is a better indicator, along with, of course.
Oh no, not that dreaded scale, huh? I mean, do you really have to get on this thing? Because it never has a good number,
Again,
right?
one of the things that I always tell my clients is it doesn't matter where you start, it's where you go. It's your progression. Just like with any exercise, you start doing maybe squats with 80 pounds. All right, fine. Where you ended up? Well, you ended up at 200 pounds. Well, then there you go. You're still doing squats, but doing them at 200 pounds now. Again, it's a process. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're always going to be, that scale is going to define you. That scale is just a number. It tells you from where you started and where you end up. And that's up to everything in between is up to you.
It doesn't tell you if you're a good person or if you're treating your family right or all that stuff, right?
It doesn't judge you.
So we shouldn't be scared of it.
Don't
even
be
though
scared.
I'm a little scared of that thing.
It's tough. But for most guys, it will be a gut check because not all of us have access to it until we go to a doctor, and that's when they tell us, oh, you might need to start working out a little bit more, lose some weight. It helps control diabetes, a lot of other issues as well, and that's when they start to see
Should you be on that every single day?
No. There's a caveat. If you understand that your body weight will fluctuate from day to day, by all means go for it, but have that understanding. Because you drink water, you eat, that however much you eat is going to show up on that scale. Once a week is fine. Once every 2 weeks, not a bad idea. I try to do it once a week with my clients so that we can see every week if we need to adjust something, if they're eating something right, if they're eating something wrong, what do they do, if they had too much, did they party too much for a guy, too many beers, too many tacos, too much pizza.
There, huh?
Exactly, it'll show up on that scale,
so
and that scale doesn't judge, and I don't judge. I just make adjustments.
You just put it down, huh?
Exactly.
Okay, so now if they're doing this at home, they're on this scale at home, do they have to wear clothes? Should they be naked? What's the best way to do it?
Up to them, honestly. Just make sure you do it at the same time every day and under the same conditions. If you do it naked every damn time right before you get into it.
Do you have them naked or you're like, no, you go ahead and keep the clothes on?
Keep the clothes on. Boxers on works just as fine. Kick off the shoes. But under the same conditions every time, and it will ensure that the measurements are accurate. You're always wrong by the same amount of time.
Let's go to this. Is this for height? What are you measuring with this?
That's
dress size.
More than anything, a guy who wants to get big. Well, let's measure how big you want to get. Let's see how big that chest is. Let's see how big those guns are getting. We always make we always track progress. You want a slimmer waist? All right, let's track where your waist is and see if you really are getting slimmer. I mean, you can always do the mirror test. What I do as well. I just get naked in front of a mirror and you like what you see. Okay.
You should always like what you see.
Exactly.
But I like what you're saying. That it's all about the progress. So thank you so much, Aldair, and you can track your progress. Come back to everywaywoman.com. We'll have more for you in a bit.